Welcome back to the Positive Gains podcast. Today, my special guest is Robert Mitchell. Robert is an educator, Marine Corps veteran, and a singer who I think will blow up on TikTok. Robert, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Doing very good.
Right on.
So, yeah, I found you on TikTok. I'm one of the ones that I'm on there quite a bit, looking at different things. You popped up on the For You page, and when I clicked your profile, I noticed you were pretty. You had a variety, a lot of different songs, a lot of different genres, and then you made it your own. So I again did some snooping, with the veteran status and an educator, so well rounded. Um, so before we get into all that, I wanted to ask you about early life, man. What was early life like? Where'd you grow up? Sure, we'll go over the singing, the different genres,
hmm
anything that you're willing to share.
No, for sure. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. Um, a pretty big small town, how I like to describe it. My granddad, growing up, like he was a pastor, so we used to be back and forth between Jacksonville, and his church was in Gainesville. So, growing up, I was in church most of the time. Sitting behind a lot of the musicians. Brother Bruce, I remember he played the organ, and singing in the youth choir, doing all the programs like that. Um, and then my sister, like she's 2 years older than me, um, she started going to the performing arts elementary school um, in our town. So I followed suit after that and started doing band in first grade. Started playing trumpet, singing in the choir, and all of that. Um, yeah, elementary school was it was it was it was very interesting. There was a lot going on. Like back then, I felt it was a lot more arts, like in the schools, a lot more events to showcase like what was happening in the schools when I was growing up. Because Jacksonville, it gets a lot of negative attention in the media, but like it's a really like thriving art scene. I credited a lot to like my like development as a musician and as a person, really.
Yeah, I've gone through Jacksonville a couple of times. I mean, I always liked it, and it's funny that you talk about growing up in the church and the programs and things like that. I was that type of kid that my mom would do the same thing, but she would force me. Right, I
Mm.
had no ambitions of trying to sing or anything, and I would actually tell people, "Hey, why don't you cut my mic off when we start singing?" You know what I mean, just to get out of it.
Hey,
Um,
that's a way.
but either way, it was up there doing it, so I can definitely relate. How about the military? You talk about briefly your time in the military.
Yeah, man. So military, it was actually quite interesting. Like out of high school, I started going to the school in my hometown, Jacksonville University, and I was with somebody at the time, and they needed a ride to the recruiting station. They wanted to join the Air Force, so I had a car, so I took them, and the Air Force wasn't there, and of course the Marines were, and they just got to me, and then we started talking, going back and forth, and eventually I was like, I feel like that's something I want to do, and yeah, I signed the open contract. Like I was pretty much going to go to boot camp, and it was going to be whatever. But talking with my recruiter more, and him, asking more questions about me and what I had going on, I was telling him like I was majoring in music education, and he was like, "Oh, you're a musician? Like we have a band, like you can still do the Marine stuff, and like they do like ceremonies and tour and all of that." So I was like, okay. So like I played my trombone over the phone for this dude, and maybe a month or two later, he flew down from DC and like did the audition for me, and yeah, I got the spot, and I was able to go to Japan. I was stationed there for 2 years. When I was over there, we I performed in Guam, South Korea, Nepal, all throughout Japan, Tokyo, Okinawa. And yeah, we did a lot of exercises and whatnot, and it was great. Um, One of the highlights I would say when I was over in Japan, there's this huge marching band festival with a lot of different military organizations from around the world. So the Australian band was there, the Philippines band, like they were there. And we do it at the Budokan Arena. It's like this huge sumo wrestling, like it's like the Madison Square Garden of like sumo wrestling.
Wow.
And yeah, it's this huge music festival. Just it's like I don't speak Japanese, like I don't speak Tagalog, you know what I'm saying? But like they put that music in front of us, and we were able to communicate and do all that, and it was a good time. And I was then after that I was stationed in San Diego for a year before I
Okay.
got out, and I was on the depot, which is where they do boot camp. So like we would do the graduation, we would travel throughout California. Um, I was in the Marine Corps All Star Jazz Band, so we would tour up and down, California, and they would tour throughout, the East Coast and throughout the whole country. But my time was up. I had 4 years. I thought about re-enlisting, but ultimately, I always wanted to like teach and get into the classroom, and the military it gave me more discipline, that the discipline that I needed to be successful in school. Like, because I was just kind of doing my thing. I was kind of just relying on my talent and my music,
All
and it's
right.
like, oh, you got to do English and math. So it was really good, in just giving me more discipline. Like, I grew up in a very structured, church, religious, and of course, when you're like in these structured, maybe shelter type environments, you like rebel a little bit. So, I wasn't like a model child growing up. Let me just say that. The military really helped ground me and really helped me figure out what I wanted to do moving forward. I know that
Was
was a
it an
lot.
eye-opening experience performing in front of all those people, coming from where you were at and kind of just maybe taking it all in? Like, what a surreal experience.
No, definitely. Like, it definitely made me more aware of the power of music and its influence, because one of the Marine Corps' main missions is community relations. It's like, you know, uh, I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of like, to kind of like make the people feel good while all of the other crazy stuff is going on.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, hey, and part of that mission is humanizing the military. So it's like, if I'm like because when I first saw the Marine Corps band, I was like in middle school. They came
Okay.
to Jacksonville, and like I never thought that you could be in the military and like play music. And like these guys, they were coming and they were talking to me like a regular person.
Right.
And I was like, oh wow. Like I did not know that was an option at all. So that was very eye-opening to me. Just yeah, meeting people from a lot of different like walks of life. Like I met people from West Virginia that I was the first black person like they met in their life.
Yeah.
So
Um,
it was cool though.
and as you said, excuse me,
No, you good.
you you ended up in San Diego and then you got out because you wanted to teach. How did you get from San Diego to New York City?
Okay, so that's a very interesting story. um, so my enlistment was up, and I was going back to Jacksonville. That was my original plan. So I
Okay.
packed up my car. I drove back to Jacksonville, and my plan was to go back to Jacksonville University, JU, where I initially started. So maybe a couple weeks after me getting out, I had made a friend, this cat Hasim, who was a bass player here in the city, and he was a veteran in the Marine Corps, and he was now in the Army band.
Okay.
So he was like, "Hey man, I've been checking you out. I've been seeing what you've been doing musically. Like, I feel like New York would be like dope. Like, you should check it out." And he was like, he's in the reserve Army band here, so it's like you're not, every day. You're just going in like maybe a week out of the
Right.
month, and performing. So my plan was to come up here and audition, and see what happened with that. And I was going to check out some schools as well.
Okay.
So I flew up here, and like my friend Hasim, like, he takes me to the recruiting office, and like they trying to get me to sign papers and stuff. And I'm like, I thought I was doing an audition. He was like, "Yeah, but I showed like my boss like your videos and stuff, and like he said, you good, like blah blah blah." So I was like, "Yeah, I don't think this for me." So I went to he told me about some schools like CUNY. So CUNY is a system up here. It's the City University of New York. Like, they have CUNY, and then they have SUNY, which is a state university. It's like a
Okay.
conglomerate of different schools under the same like umbrella. So I went to this school, Queens College, and I just walked into their music building, the Aaron Copland School of Music. And there was this dude at the desk, and I was like, "Hey man, like, I know I'm like super random, but like, what's the audition process here?" And like, they needed trombones, they needed low brass to fit their quota. So I kind of got lucky. And he took my email and my number down, and it's New York. He kind of made
Right.
it seem like, "Hey, yeah, whatever, like, I'll take it down." But no, they hit me up like a couple hours later and was like, "Hey, can you come in tomorrow and do an audition?" And this was a real audition. Like, I played music, and like, I sight read and all of that. And it was like, "Okay, we'll let you know what's happening." So maybe a week or two went by, and it was like, "Hey, you've been accepted. Like, we want to like offer you da da da, bam bam." But then the school, so it's the Aaron Copland School of Music at Queens College. So
Okay.
you get into the School of Music, but you gotta get into the college too. You feel me?
Okay. Yeah.
So like, my high school grades were fine, but they was like, "Yo, buddy, your damn SAT and ACT is like 6 years old." And we don't even use that system anymore
Mhm.
for scoring. So like, I had to fly back up here and like
Ooh.
take a test. And it was like, "But if you pass the test, like, you'll be admitted." And I was like, "Okay." So I was like, I gotta really bet on myself here. And like, I hit up my friend who was a math teacher, and I was like, "Yo, I need you to tutor me for like 2 nights. Like, I would pay you, buy you dinner, all that." And she did. Like, and I like started to remember these concepts and whatnot. I flew up, took the test, passed it, then I started school there. And yeah, I know that was a long story. But it was really random and really happenstance how I got up to New York.
And so we spoke a little bit earlier, so that now you're teaching middle school, right?
Yeah, so I had moved back to Florida during the pandemic, and I
Oh, okay.
transferred back to FAMU, where I finished school in Tallahassee. So after that, I moved back to Jacksonville. I know I'm like all over the
All
place.
over.
And because I really wanted to teach like in my hometown.
Oh,
So yeah, I started teaching there, and yeah, it was a good time. I moved up here for a lot of reasons, but for the teaching position, it was just getting real hard to teach in Florida. A lot of, policies that don't really coincide with teaching music.
Right.
So, I just had to do what was best for, me and my career, like moving forward. So, yeah. But
Did, did you ever have thoughts of quitting? Because I mean, you go back and forth, taking the test. Some people might say, you know what? That's already enough roadblocks for me. That's a wrap. I'm gonna find something else to do.
I definitely thought about like just being like, hey, whatever, like a lot. But I mean, like I was like, man, I worked too hard and like uh I'm not getting younger. So it's like I either gotta do this now or I've seen it not happen for a lot of the people. Like I'm not about to add like my name to that list, so yeah, I just had to.
And you're in the right spot, right? I mean, you could sing anywhere, but you're at the Big Apple. Um, I always say it takes courage to post videos of yourself doing anything. I know a lot of people would maybe disagree, but I think more people would agree because it's not easy to have people critique you, people that you don't know, feedback, a lot of that stuff. So, in regards to just singing, how do you feel about that? Was it hard for you to post? Did it not bother you?
Um, See, it really didn't bother me to post like I feel like I kind of got a head start on like because I've been doing social media for since high school, like over 10 years, but not really like taking it super serious until like now, like. But yeah, as far as like me posting, like growing up playing music, I started you know trumpet and playing in band and choir and stuff when I was like very young. So as a musician, I feel like we get used to like criticism, like from an early age. Like I see it's interesting. I see this in my work like now, like how like being a musician, like when I get feedback, like I feel like I react to it differently than like someone who may not have been told, hey, you might not be the sharpest, you know what I mean,
Right, right.
in the band. So I mean, um, yeah, I mean that kind of helped me with it. And I just really I kind of walk into the whole social media and posting with like no expectations of anything. I'm just posting like stuff I like to sing, and I'm just kind of letting people make their own interpretations of, what they feel about it. Like if it goes too left, I will have to like intervene. But I'm kind of just I'm just enjoying making music and you know, but with this new traction, I guess, like on my page, it has made me like more intentional with like posting like consistently and like really seeing what's happening in the world. I feel like I have the best like resource with the kids. Like they know what's happening. Like they're on TikTok, they're on like I
Right.
just peeping game all day really, and they don't even know it. So it's
And
all good.
I feel like it's hard for people to put a label on you too, like I said, because there's just so much of a variety, from what I saw was Nirvana, and then it went to Motown, and then there was Prince. So there definitely isn't a box. And with that being said, I'm curious to know some of your favorite artists, past, present. It could be gospel, whatever you'd like. Just give me a few that you got.
Well, always got to start with Stevie Wonder. He's the GOAT in my book. Um, just a very like even outside of just music, just very inspiring. Like individual. Michael Jackson, of course. Like I still, anytime I go around my family in Georgia, they're like, I remember you being on the porch, like trying to moonwalk, like trying to be like Mike, you know. Um, Mint condition, Stokely Williams. He's like, that's my dude. Like, Usher. Right now, I said Usher, and I guess my phone thought I said Siri or something. But her, I really love her. Um,
Very underrated.
Jasmine Sullivan,
Mhm.
like it's actually crazy. I feel like I take more vocally from a lot of female like singers, like than I have from a lot of like male artists. Like, of course, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, like Mint Condition, like Stokely Williams, Joe, um, Kurt Elling. Yeah, Kurt Elling. He's a jazz artist, a singer from Chicago. Bad dude. D'Angelo, Jermaine Holmes. But like I told you, I grew up in church, so Fred Hammond, like the
Yeah.
Commission,
Uh-huh.
um, Marvin Sapp, Richard Smallwood, like the Clark sisters. Like that's like my favorite gospel group of all time. Like,
Well, yeah.
and I actually about 4 years ago, I actually got a chance to play for Dorinda, like at this church in Queens, for Stanley Brown's like birthday celebration. And like she's a perfectionist. Oh my, like she was everything that I thought she would be. And like it was like listening to the recording and even better. Um so I feel like a lot of my sound is influenced a lot by gospel. Um and just because I mean I like to do a lot of music history. I'm not a music historian. I'm a little minor music historian,
Right,
but
right.
it all comes from the church. Like it's all coming from a lot of like, I mean, we could do a deep dive on like Negro spirituals into like the blues, into gospel music, into like rock and all these like yeah, but yeah.
It's
So
all intertwined.
it's all intertwined. So yeah, I think my gospel roots a lot.
And then because you're an educator, a veteran, you're doing a lot, man. I mean, you got a lot on your plate, and I would imagine that when you post these videos and these other things, it might be a way to kind of uh I don't want to say decompress, but almost like something on the side that you can do to kind of get away from the 9 to 5, I guess we'll say. So what's next for you on top of all that you're doing right now?
So I'm recording music right now. Like, what's next for me is releasing my own music. Um, because I've been doing a lot of covers, and that's great. Like, but I also want my own work to be out there as well. Do more performing. Because I went to a meeting, like a professional development day. It's like you meet up with a lot of different teachers from like your district and
Okay.
that teach with you or whatever. And this one teacher, like she said something that really motivated me. Um, she asked me like if I like do music like outside of school. And I thought that was a crazy question. I'm like, yeah, I'm a musician, like I'm a music teacher. And she was like, and she's a music teacher as well.
Oh,
And and she was like, man, I'm really happy for you because like she said music is becoming something that I used to do. And I said, damn, like I don't ever want it to feel like that. So like, and you know, that really struck a like chord with me. I was like,
mhm.
yo, like I got to keep going. I gotta like keep making my own music. Like I don't ever want to get to a point where I'm like teaching and kind of just going through the motions like with it. So yeah, man, really what's next for me is just staying consistent and like just staying true to myself, really. Like, cause TikTok can be weird.
It can be.
Like I'm just not changing up. I'm just doing what I gotta do, you know, and making music. And I'm really happy about it too. I realize now that like man, like I really do have the power or like the influence to like really make people day. Like, that's really what gets me um like that's what gets me going, I guess, like off the TikTok. Aside from like people following and liking and commenting stuff, like seeing the comments of people like, man, I've been listening to this all day, like, this made me feel good type. So that's
Right.
really cool about it. And I feel like everything else will come in its due time.
And the fact that it might be a short clip, right? Like a minute long or 45 seconds, and people are keeping it on repeat is, quite the feat. So you got to give yourself a big pat on the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
What about advice, though? Like I said, you're influencing a lot of people, whether it's in the classroom, outside the classroom. There's a lot of people that are watching you to see what's the next move. So, what advice would you give somebody that might want to do something similar?
Whew, man, that's a lot of things I feel like I could say. I would say I would say two things, I guess. Don't let the outside noise affect you, especially when it's coming from people that have no interest in you or your future. Um, and I guess my second piece of advice would be don't like there's always going to be, you're going to like go back and forth with yourself to like get to your desired goal, but
Right.
don't second guess yourself like too much. Like like I feel as artists, as musicians, creatives, like we are the hardest on ourselves, yeah, I would just say don't second guess yourself to the point where you are just you just don't do anything with it. Like to where you're like, well, I'm just not gonna do it then.
Right.
Like just do it. Like that's really like a lot of my videos, like I'll be honest with you, man. Like sometimes it take me like 6, 7 times like to get it like how like you look at my camera like real, you'll see me in the same position like 10 times, like just trying to get it.
Right.
And
Trying to get it right.
and like with the it's crazy, the Pretty Wings video that like kind of brought everyone to like my page. Like that was one of those videos. Like people, this is funny. I've read the comments and whatnot, and people was talking about my eyes and like it looked like I'm looking at something because someone was trying to come into my classroom. So I'm like trying to like keep singing, and they like looking at me. I'm looking at them at the same time, and like trying to keep my vibe going. So a lot of times when I'm looking off in the distance in my videos, it's because like somebody is walking by and like I am a like just look off in space type person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see
But
it now.
you feel me?
That makes sense now. Now that you say that, because I've seen a few videos, but I never put it together, and I never thought that deep into it. But I see what they're saying now.
Yeah, man. Like one day I'm gonna show like my point of view from when I'm making these videos. I think that would be interesting for people to see. But yeah, don't second guess yourself. Like just do it. like I hate to sound like a Nike advertisement, but like just do it. Like, cause if you don't, somebody else will, or maybe not. So
Mhm.
just do it. Like,
Yeah.
like, and I appreciate you like inviting me. Like, this is my first time doing a podcast, or
Okay.
like this is, that's why I'm like rambling over here. But
No, it's good, man. You're stepping out of the comfort zone. So, I mean, that's another thing, like you're saying, just do it.
just do it, man. But
So
yeah,
yeah,
man.
I believe that if more people would live by it, they would shock themselves. And even if you strike out because you did make it or whatever, well, at least you tried it.
That's it.
How about social media? We covered a lot about that, but where are you at? Where can people find you?
So on TikTok and Instagram, it's Rob Lee, the Music Man, on both of those platforms. Same on YouTube and SoundCloud and iTunes, Spotify, all that type stuff.
All
Um,
right.
but yeah, Rob Lee, the Music Man. Easy
Simple
way,
enough.
indeed.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I know you've got, like you said, you're working on music. When it drops, you can come back on and we'll get a bird's eye, first hand view at it, and appreciate you. I know it's busy out there in New York.
Yeah,
I
man.
I know the Knicks fans are out there. They're going crazy right now. So
I swear the city would burn down
they
if
will. They
Knicks
will
win.
burn it down.
Like how Philly was when they won the Super Bowl times 10.
Yeah. I've been saying that. I said that is nothing. That is an appetizer if the Knicks win. But yeah, shout out to the Knicks. But yeah, thank you so much for being on. God bless you and best of luck to you.
Thanks, man. God bless.